Hi, we're going to do some additional practice examples related to research design. So we did 3 lessons on the concepts, and in this video we will do practice examples related to both correlation and experimentation. Quick note, for the practice to be effective, be sure to pause and answer before each example. Without testing yourself, you may get a false sense of security about your level of understanding. First example. Suppose that research reveals that the more psychology courses Harper students take during their college years, the higher scores they get on a measure of sensitivity to others. Is this positive, negative, or no correlation? And then, can you put it into that 3-step model to try and explain? Press pause, and when you're ready, press play, and I will give you the answers. Okay, so this is a positive correlation. More courses, more sensitivity. Fewer courses, less sensitivity. These variables go up and down together. Now, which variable is the cause? Which variable is the effect? You don't know. Maybe the number of courses is the cause and the level of sensitivity is the effect. So, for example, maybe taking the courses is making people more sensitive. But you don't know, because maybe the level of sensitivity is the cause and the number of courses taken is the effect. In other words, maybe people who are more sensitive are more inclined to keep taking psychology courses after intro psych. Or maybe there's some third variable related to family or genetics or who knows what that might predict, or that might be the cause of both the number of courses taken and the level of sensitivity. Okay, so you do not know which variable is the cause and which is the effect. But why do you care? Like, why does this matter in the real world? Well, it matters because very often well-meaning people misinterpret a correlation as implying a specific cause and effect relationship, which it cannot do, and then make policy or practice recommendations based on a misinterpretation. So, for example, in this case, that might involve a committee getting this finding, being very excited, and deciding to change graduation requirements. So people have to take more psychology courses to graduate. Aside from making a bunch of people mad, and aside from it not being based on a correct interpretation of the data, it would cost a lot of money and time and effort that is unwarranted and inappropriate. Okay? Here's some additional examples. So for each one, I want you to identify whether it's positive, negative, or no correlation. If there is a correlation, I want you to identify 3 possible explanations following that 3-step model that I showed you. So press pause, and when you're ready, press play, and I will give you the answers. Okay, number 1. In a study of positive psychology by Deary, 2005, levels of intelligence did not predict levels of happiness in old age. That is no correlation. Level of intelligence and level of happiness in this study did not predict each other. So if you plotted them out on a graph, it would just be a bunch of random dots all over the place. Okay, no correlation. Number 2, a study reveals that students who play more video games have lower GPAs. That is a negative correlation. So as video game playing increases, GPA decreases. Less video game playing is associated with higher GPA. They go up and down like a teeter-totter. Okay? They're an inverse relationship. So maybe the video games are the cause and the GPA is the effect. Or maybe GPA is the cause and choosing to play video games is the effect. Or maybe there's some variable that wasn't measured, some third variable that is the cause, and playing video games and GPA are both the effects of that. Number 3, a survey reveals that college students who eat breakfast more often have a higher GPA than those who eat breakfast less often. This is a positive correlation. More breakfast, higher GPA. Less breakfast, lower GPA. Okay, so maybe eating breakfast is the cause, so the degree to which you eat breakfast is the cause, and the GPA is the effect. Maybe GPA is the cause, and eating breakfast is the effect. Or maybe there's a third variable like intelligence or conscientiousness, that means responsibility, that is the cause, and both eating breakfast and doing well in school are both effects of that common cause. The point is, we don't know. Correlation does not equal causation. If it helps you to do that in a more active way, I've given you the opportunity here to plot out a couple of graphs, just so you can really get a sense that each dot is a different person, and these are different scores on different assessments, and you're putting them together. Okay, so I've given you some participants and scores on 3 different assessments: well-being, materialism, and trust. On one of the subsequent slides, you can plot well-being scores against materialism scores, and on the next one, well-being against trust. And then you'll get a visual of what this looks like, plotting out all of the individual people onto the graph. So here's the first graph, and there's the second graph. Okay, let's shift to experimentation. So here's the first study. I'm going to read it, and then I want you to pause. Arlene wanted to increase productivity of the clerical staff in her plant. She thought painting their cubicles blue, her favorite color, would increase their rate of work completion, but that painting the cubicles yellow, a color she thought was harsh, would have no effect or might even slow down the clerical staff's rate of completion. To test this idea, she had the work cubicles in the sales department painted blue and those in the public relations department painted yellow. Then she kept track of how many projects each department completed in the next 3 months. For the 3-month period following the painting, the sales clerical staff dramatically outperformed the public relations clerical staff in the number of projects completed. So I would like you to answer these questions or identify these items. Press pause, and when you're done, press play, and I will give you the answers. Okay, so there are 2 hypotheses. There's a blue hypothesis and a yellow hypothesis. So she predicts that blue will help productivity and yellow will hurt or not affect productivity. They're 2 separate hypotheses because she could get a yes or no answer to either one of them, independent of the other. Okay? Her independent variable is color. Remember, the independent variable is the cause that is manipulated by the researcher. In this case, it is color. And we will say more about the independent variable in just a moment. But dependent variable is productivity. That is the outcome. That is the effect. So she thinks that color is the cause and productivity is the effect. And so she's going to manipulate color and measure productivity. And she has operationally defined productivity as the number of projects completed in the next 3 months. Okay? But let's say more about the independent variable, because remember, the independent variable is about creating different groups to treat differently. Okay, so the groups are always part of the independent variable. They are what is varying. All right, so color is her independent variable, and she's got 2 groups, blue and yellow. Blue and yellow are both experimental groups. Blue is testing the blue hypothesis, yellow is testing the yellow hypothesis, but we've run out of groups. So she's got 2 experimental groups, but no control group. In other words, she doesn't know how to interpret her results. So, problem number 1, there is no control group to provide a baseline. So, how do you fix that? You add a control group. For example, she could add a 3rd group that does not get a change in paint color. They keep their normal color. So we have a group with normal color paint, whatever that is, a group with blue, and a group with yellow. Now you can compare blue to the baseline. You can compare yellow to the baseline. The reason you can't compare them to each other directly is because we know that the blue group did better than the yellow group. but we don't know why. So we don't know if blue helped and yellow didn't do anything, or yellow hurt and blue didn't do anything, or if blue helped a little and yellow hurt a little. All three of those cases lead to the same distance in performance between those two groups, but for totally different reasons. Having a baseline allows you to compare to what would happen if they didn't have a change in paint. It's a baseline, okay? So problem number 1, no control group. Problem number 2 is she's comparing pre-existing groups. So her independent variable is color. Her groups are colors, all right? Blue and yellow. Your groups have to match the independent variable, okay? But she's made a mistake. She's given everybody in one department blue and everybody in a totally different department yellow. But they're different departments. So if she finds that the sales department does better than the public relations department, it may have nothing to do with color and everything to do with the fact that they're different jobs. Maybe sales had more jobs or more experienced workers or more workers or any number of things, okay? More motivation, whatever, okay? So what did she do right? Well, everybody had 3 months. So she's counting projects, but she's doing it for the same amount of time for these different groups. Okay? Next example. Dr. Aziz predicted that drug X would reduce depression in individuals experiencing symptoms of depression. So Dr. Aziz studied 1,000 patients with depression. 500 received the real drug, 500 received a sugar pill. Both Dr. Aziz and the participants knew who received the real drug versus the sugar pill. All participants took the same dosage of drug once a day for 6 months. She measured participants' depression at the beginning of the study and again at the end of the study using the Beck Depression Inventory. She found that on average, participants showed lower levels of depression after taking the drug but not the sugar pill. Press pause and then press play when you're ready. Okay. Her hypothesis is that this particular drug will reduce depression in individuals with depression. Her independent variable is the type of drug. And there's 2 groups. There's the real drug group, and then there's the placebo control group that gets the sugar pill. Okay, so the real drug and the sugar pill, that is how the independent variable is being varied. Her dependent variable is level of depression, which she is operationally defining using the Beck Depression Inventory. A key problem here is that both the doctor and the participants know who got the real drug versus the sugar pill. That's a problem because that might lead the doctor to pay more attention without even realizing it, pay more attention to the ones who got the real drug, and it might make the participants decide whether or not to really invest themselves in the study. If they know they're getting the sugar pill, then they're not expecting to see any results. If they know they're getting the drug, they may be looking for effects, right? So the way you fix that is you have somebody who knows who gets the real pill and the sugar pill, but that person is not interacting with the participants. So there's somebody keeping track, but Dr. Aziz does not know. Also, the participants shouldn't know. They need to be randomly assigned to their groups, and they can't know which group they're in. Okay? Now, there are controlled variables, so everybody got the same dosage once a day for 6 months. All of that is controlled, and that is a good thing. Okay, so if everyone got the real drug and everyone felt better at the end of the study, would you know for sure that the drug itself caused the improvement, and why? Again, no, you would not know why, because you need to have a double